Awesome. All right. Welcome back to the No Life Jackets podcast. This is your usual host, Brian Emenick here. And we've got my buddy Tim right here. He was my foreign exchange student with my family in high school. So I figured this will be a pretty fun interview to have. Getting some stuff out of the way early. As usual, you can go to nolifejackets.com and you'll find some links to some helpful places where we usually upload and stuff like that. And you can also find an email there to contact my team, aka myself, directly at brian@nolifejackets.com. We're super professional. Yeah, that about does it. But anyway, Tim, if we could just right off the bat here, if you could just give me some just like quick Spark Notes run through of, maybe like what you do, just some things about yourself, just to get some people familiar with you.
I'd be happy to. Thanks for inviting me, Brian. This is great. I'm glad you're doing this. Podcasts are the new sort of medium, and I'm glad you're dipping your toe into this.
Yeah, thank you.
Yeah. So quickly about me. Well, my name's Tim. I've studied in the U.S. and I've stayed with the Bryans. With Nemanics while I was there. I'm 20. I'm 24. I'm from this little town in central Slovakia. Cool town, in my opinion, called Zvolen. If you get any chance to visit it, you definitely should. And and I study security studies, which is like a specialization of international relations. I'm concerned with security and all things around security and all of that. So we do, and there's further specializations like peace studies and conflict studies and all of that, but I'm doing like a general degree. So that gives you an idea of what I study. As I'm studying, I'm also working, and I'm working in this little self-governing office in central Slovakia. And I think we'll talk about that with Brian later on in the podcast. And I currently live in Prague with my girlfriend. We share this beautiful flat that you're seeing in the background.
Oh, nice. Cool. Awesome. Yeah, I actually I'm terrible at keeping track of where you live, just because I'm generally bad with geography.
Me too.
But over in the Czech Republic. Nice. Awesome. All right, but yeah, so I like one of the things I really like about after I talked to you about coming on is that you sent me questions and I sent you questions. So I figure we can kind of just go back and forth, see how many we get through, and we'll just kind of see how it goes. So I'll start off here with a general question, and this one kind of piggybacks off of, since you moved in and you're living with your girlfriend, I'm kind of curious. Do you think you'll have kids?
Oh, you're starting off with this one. I think so. I'm pretty. I'm a family man, I think, and I think I will. I'm planning to, anyways. So
Nice.
unless something comes up that impedes me from doing that, which unfortunately, which I hope it won't. I think I will have some successors.
Nice. I like it. I was kind of curious about that one, just because I could see it going both ways, because I know you're a pretty professional guy, right? So I could see you being all in on the career there, and stuff like that. So that's kind of interesting.
Oh,
Awesome. Do you have like a rough number in your head? There's a difference between usually in different cultures. Like here in America, like the Mormons, they're known for having tons of children, right? But I think nowadays people usually have less. So do you have like a rough number in your head?
I used to want to have a lot, but given you're maturing, you sort of figure out that having kids is like a real responsibility.
Oh, yeah.
Like it's a huge thing. And so I've sort of reduced that number. I think 2 or 3 will be fine. I want, I was like, okay, I mean, 4 or 5 would be great, but but
Mhm.
that's unsustainable. I think so,
Yeah.
especially with my girlfriend and I, because we're both of course sort of career oriented people,
Mhm.
and yeah, it's physically impossible.
Yeah, I think that makes sense. Like I
Yeah.
I would never want to have just one kid, right? Like if you have one, you got to
Yep.
have more than that, right? I feel like that's just a
Yep.
recipe for raising an asshole, you know? Like just having one kid, it's not gonna work out. Personally, I think I'd go for at
Plus,
least
I
three,
think
but
you also need to like take way more care of one kid than of two, because I mean the two kids, they can play together, you know. I mean, but
mm-hmm.
if you have just one, you have to pay a lot of attention to it. How about
Gotcha.
you? Do you wanna have kids?
I definitely want to have kids. Yeah, I think at least three. I feel
At
like with
least three.
Yeah, I feel like at least three. You know, I grew up. There were three of us, so I think it's a pretty good number. Now, ideally, right? I don't know. I have a number of five in my head. I don't know why, really.
Whoa.
I remember
Yeah.
I remember talking to when I was younger. I talked to this one guy at church who had a ton of kids. Like he had like seven or something like that. They were a Mexican family who'd migrated up to Minnesota, and he's like, like people was like, oh, so many kids, right? Because they think like one, but there's really a lot less effort involved. Like after five, they almost start taking care of themselves. You just you got your system figured out. So yeah, I feel like that'd be really cool. And then you got a perfect number for a basketball team. It's just
That's just one of the perks.
exactly. I think there's also like a tax benefit after five. I'm not sure though. I'll have to look into that
I'm
again.
pretty sure. And if there isn't, there for sure will be, because populations are declining and all of that. So especially in
Definitely.
Western countries, yeah, this is
Yeah, it's
like
actually it's super interesting. We're definitely gonna go on a tangent here, but there is like during the pandemic, at least in the U.S., they did like this program like the child tax credit or something like that, and basically it's uh like per child every month you get like $300 or something, which I think is super cool because like declining birth rates and stuff, people have been worried about that for a while. So like kind of like incentivizing people to have kids and make them able to have more kids by like you know giving them money to take care of their kids. I think that's pretty awesome. So I hope that program stays around by the time we start
me
popping them
too,
out. Yeah,
because like your social welfare system is terrible in this state.
it's
No offense, but
yeah, it's kind of there sometimes,
yeah.
but for the
I mean,
most part, yeah.
compared to Europe, of
Oh
course.
yeah, for sure. Yeah, there's definitely a lot more social safety net type programs over there.
Yeah.
Nice.
All
Like
right, so I think I'll give you one of my questions now.
definitely.
Do you think you'll do something great with your life, career-wise?
Yeah, this was actually a really interesting one, and I don't think I will necessarily career wise. Like I usually don't focus on one thing super hard. Like I have really broad interests and I want to you know, try all these different things out. So career wise to do something really great, you got to kind of focus in and you become kind of deep focused. And I'm just way too I don't know what the word would be. Not ADD or anything like that, but I have too much trouble focusing on one thing like that at a time. Like for instance, with things I listen to this thing and it's like if you put like 20 hours of work into something, you can become like reasonably competent at it. Like if you put in 20 hours of like studying and something into some sort of topic like learning an instrument or a new skill, you can get pretty competent at it, right? But you get those diminishing returns after a certain period, right? So that's why these like Olympians and people like that, they put like 10,000 hours of work in, and I don't know if I'll have that in. So I don't think I'll do any one thing particularly great. I want to just try a whole lot of things, right? I like writing, I like playing music, I like being a mechanic, woodworking, all sorts of stuff. I just want to try out, hopefully, in my life. So yeah,
Yeah, nice.
nice.
That's right. Yeah, I mean, the skill kind of like plateaus. Like
Mm-hmm.
it's a it's curved like that. Um, yeah, you really have to put in a lot of work to be the top in anything.
Yeah,
Hmm.
definitely. And I got my first job out of college, working at a bank, and I got promoted up really quickly in that. And I went to and I was up to like being like a team lead. So I was like
Hmm.
managing a whole lot of stuff. So I'd be working like 60 and 70 hour weeks, just fixing stuff when it broke at 11 at night, 3 a.m. I'd be answering calls and stuff, and it was just I didn't enjoy it particularly much. So um, I think for me, I don't think my career will ever really be like one of my main focuses. I don't think at this point since I've done some stuff. But yeah, what about you? Um,
Well, spinning it on me here. Um, I don't know. I'm not sure. I'm not sure either.
hmm
Some people say that I have the potential to do something, good.
hmm
But yeah, I mean, I'm pretty open as well. I want to recommend you this book I've read.
Yeah.
It's called Range by David Epstein.
hmm
Range by David Epstein. And this guy, he wrote a book, and his argument is basically that in the future, or in the near future, people who have broad interests, who have a lot of skills in different areas, will be the ones who are successful, because that's the world that we are going to live in. It's going to need people who are well-rounded instead of in these sort of hyper specialized fields. And he's basically saying that, of course, hyper specialization has its place in, I don't know, medicine or research, and all of this.
hmm
But at the same time, he says that jobs of the future will be shifting, and for that reason, people who are, well-rounded will thrive. So, so I think that when you said that you don't think you will be particularly successful because you have a broad range of interests, I think it's quite the opposite. You might be successful just because of that, because you have a broad
I
range of.
got you. Yeah, I definitely see what you mean. Like I'm a data engineer right now, so like
Mhm.
in the tech fields that I've worked with in general, like those hyper specialized people, they're definitely a dying breed. Like at the bank, they have some guys who like work on the mainframes, right, that have been around since the 70s, and they can be pretty
Mhm.
hyper specialized. But almost all the new jobs that you get hired for, at least data related jobs, they're just looking for people with a really, really broad smattering of different skills. So I think you're definitely on track. That makes a whole lot of sense. So it's interesting.
Well, at least it falls into my biased look, so outlook on the world. So yeah.
Nice.
All
Awesome.
right, whose turn is it? It's your turn, right?
Yeah, my turn. All right, so let's
Hold
go.
on. Is swearing allowed? Just
Swearing's definitely allowed. Yeah, but I
all
don't.
right.
I don't know if I could talk for that long without cussing. Generally speaking, so it's all good.
Right.
All right, let me go with. Here's a classic one. This is one I ask almost everybody. But like, what do you think was like the most formative time or like event in your life? Like maybe like you went through a particular experience and it kind of like changed your outlook on life, and or maybe you got some good wisdom from it. Anything that stands out?
It's definitely the time that I went to high school, because when I went to high school, I had to leave my home. That was the first time I've left my home, and I lived in this. It was what you call a boarding school, right? It's
Mm-hmm.
you live in a dormitory for 5 days of the week, and you come home for two, and then you go back. So this was definitely this is what saved me, and I think in many ways,
mm-hmm.
it really helped me develop as a person. I think in because you're thrown into the water, and you're
Nice. How old were you for that particular period? Because I know high school doesn't necessarily mean the
I was
same thing over there.
14.
Gotcha.
Yeah, I was 14.
Okay. Cool.
Yeah.
That's fun.
So, all right. I don't think I'll spin this one back on you, because we'll be here forever. I'm just gonna
Yeah,
jump to
no
one of my
worries.
questions. What is a hidden talent that you have that no one knows about?
So these like ones that nobody knows about. I was digging in my head. I don't think I have many that nobody knows about. Right? I'm a bit of a show off, so I like to show off my stuff. But I got one here for you. I'll try leaning my camera so you can see it. But I can flex my head. So like
Flex your head.
Like it's a bit like flexing your ears, and I can kind of move my ears separate a little bit too, but like I can just wiggle my whole head without moving my face at all. Like my entire scalp and everything moves.
Took a lot of work to train those muscles there, huh?
Oh yeah,
And the
let me tell you,
skull.
years of years of work. And the other one, the only other one I thought of was I don't like. I've read about this online. Sometimes I've come across it, but I can rumble my ears. So like, you can like not everybody can do it, but you can like I just like I don't know, I like flex the inside of my ears almost, and I like rumble them. And like when I was a kid, yeah, I thought it was like some weird like magical thing. Like I'd like do it, and I'd like think really hard to try to like send my thoughts to other people or something. But apparently, it's just a weird thing that some people can do, and some can't.
I think you're sending your thoughts, man.
Oh yeah, let me tell. I did
Definitely
it
the
once
case.
in a car. I'm like, tell me what I'm thinking, and I did it to one kid, and he's like, "You're saying you're an idiot," and I was like, "How'd you know?"
That's good.
But yeah, so that's the only ones that I could think of. You got any sneaky hidden talents that nobody knows about?
Hmm. I don't know. I can dislocate my thumb.
Oh yeah.
I think I've shown that to people, but this
Hmm.
is the closest I'm coming to something that no
Nice.
one knows about.
Interesting. Yeah, people who can do weird things with their fingers freak me out a little bit. Like people who can like they can flex this knuckle without flexing the rest of their hand, or they can like kink them all over. It's just weird. I don't know. I got a
This is
weird
gonna be
thing with.
useful when they arrest me, when I'm a politician, and
Uh-huh.
squeeze out of that.
When you get caught for corruption, you can
Yep.
squeeze out and flee to Russia. I like it. No, no.
Yeah,
Awesome.
that's what they do.
All right, let me grab one of my questions here. Oh yeah. So obviously right now you live in Prague and you're from Zvolen, but do you like where do you see yourself living in the future? Do you have any like particular places you'd love to live or anything like that?
It depends. It depends to like what time frame you're referring to.
Mm-hmm.
I think near future, it's going to be some of these bigger cities in Europe.
Mm-hmm.
It's either going to be Prague, Bratislava, the capital of Slovakia, or Brussels, I think. And yeah, I think it's going to be one of these three cities.
Mm-hmm.
But further on, we'll see. I mean, it depends on my career, I think, or on the career of both of us, my girlfriend and I, because the opportunities that are offered to us will be focused in cities, I think,
Mm-hmm.
mainly. But I mean, I actually like cities. I didn't like Prague at first because it seemed too big for me.
Mm-hmm.
But you just kind of get used to it, and you get used to the size, and your sense of scale sort of adjusts, and that's how you get used to it. And there's a lot of opportunities here, cultural and
Mm-hmm.
otherwise. So I think cities, some of these three cities, I think. How about you?
Nice. Yeah, so right now I think it's probably similar to you. In the short term, we'll probably be sticking around Minneapolis here in Minnesota, but right now we're in the heart of it in St. Paul. But we're actually moving out to the suburbs soon. We're hoping to buy a house if
Hmm.
everything works out down there. So we'll be kind of on the edge of it, still close enough, just because a lot of like Debbie's career opportunities and stuff will be mostly in the cities, and it is super convenient, just being able to do whatever you want because it's all nearby. I think down the road at some point though, we'll see. I do like kind of living out in the middle of nowhere, like my like my parents have. Like a lot of my hobbies and stuff, like working on cars and just screwing around, being able to build dumb projects. Like if I like decide like, hey, I want to build a potato gun or a cat or a cannon. I don't know. You can just kind of do that, or you can't really do that in the middle of the city. So I just kind of like the extra freedom and kind of you can just kind of do whatever you want when you live that far out. So I think eventually we'll probably be farther out of at least the big cities. But yeah, that's what I think.
Yeah, I mean, I'd love to live, the life that you described as well. But there's just nothing for me to do in
Hmm.
like village in central Slovakia, I think.
Yeah,
And
for sure. Yeah, I do like old like the jobs that I get now. It's basically all work from home, which is kind of nice. So I'll still be able to
yeah,
have these career opportunities, and it's kind of like if I was working the job I have now, right, but I still live down in Blue Earth, right, I could live in a mansion, right? Property there costs nothing. It's so it's so stupid cheap. So some of those opportunities, that's got a little financial incentive too.
right, yeah, that's absolutely valid. Yeah, it's getting crazy with these house prices.
Oh
Anyways,
yeah.
all right. What do you think you'll be like when you're old?
Yeah,
Are you
yeah.
gonna
So
be are you gonna be one of those grumpy old men?
I think I definitely could be one of those grumpy old men. I hope I don't become too grumpy. Like I'm hoping when I'm older that I kind of want to be like a like some sort of like teacher type person, right? I want to
Hmm.
I'd love to have like a shop or like a maker space or something like that, and be able to like
Hmm.
show some of my skills or something to younger people, and mentor some people. I'd like to be very generous with my time and stuff like that when I'm older, and hopefully have a massive breadth of skills so that she can show different people different things. But I think there's definitely a solid possibility of me growing into a grumpy old man. Like I look at my dad and I'm like genetics is working against me. I don't know how happy and open minded I'll be as an old man, but we'll see. I'm trying my best to resist genetics and hopefully not be a stick in the mud.
Yeah, good luck. But this is great. This sounds great. Very generous of you.
Yeah, for sure. Yeah, when you grow older, what do you think? Like how do you kind of like see your personality or your role being when you're an old man?
Similar, I think. Similar. I'd like to be sort of like a teacher or a mentor to younger
Hmm,
people, I think, as well, just to pass on skills. And, I think I would also like to just leave something behind me, like,
for sure.
a legacy, or
Yeah,
something.
definitely.
But that's something I would very much like to
Yeah,
have when I'm
I
old.
think that'll be pretty big. Like a lot of people like I see them like they'll retire, they'll move down south to Florida or Arizona or something around here, and they'll just kind of like enjoy their retirement, you know. And I get it, right? But I like I think that legacy is going to be a big thing when I get older. I think I'm going to see death coming down the road, and I'll be really wanting to leave some stuff behind. So I don't know if I'll necessarily be one of those people who will be able to just kind of relax and enjoy,
Yeah,
retiring and stuff. So
it's boring. Anyways,
nice. All right, let me grab one of mine here. Ah, here's a good one. What's your favorite book? Either one that you go back to and either read quite often, or really means something to you, or maybe just I don't know, just the favorite one you got. Yeah.
mhm, that's a great question.
I knew it would be a tough one for you.
Yeah, definitely will be. I would show you my library here, but you can't see it. But it's a favorite book of mine. Holy cow. Hmm, that's a real good question. Favorite book of mine. Well, what am I reading right now? Okay, let's see. This is pretty good. This is perhaps not my favorite, but this is it's called, well, it's in Czech. It's called uh, Vysněný život Ernesta G, which means the awesome life of Ernest G, and it's by this French author Jean-Michel Gessania. I'm gonna put an English accent on that French name. This guy he wrote a novel about this young Czech who basically the book maps his life, and this young Czech he moves to Paris because an ambitious doctor. He does research in like biomedicine, and then he is sent off to Algeria to do research in one of these prestigious institutes. And it just maps his story, and the story is set in the first half of the, well, for now, I haven't read it in its entirety, but for now, the story is set in the first half of the 20th century. So it's coming to coming to the Second World War slowly, and it just sort of maps the events of the world and how they, because he's a Jew,
Oh,
it
gotcha.
sort of maps the events of the world and how he interprets them and all of that. So that's a pretty good book. This is a great book I've read just recently. It's called The Story of One German. The Story of One German. I don't remember the author, but that's a great book. It's a book about this German guy, surprise, surprise, who lived through the period maps the period between the First World War and the Second World War, and he is very much against the Nazi regime and all that, and he maps very specifically, and it's the greatest book I've read on the subject of how countries become, or how countries can radicalize. And it's a brilliant case, and he maps the lives of his friends and how they've changed and turned into Nazis, about how the entire society changed and all of that. It's truly, it's one of those life-changing books. I think The Story of One German, like, greatly recommended.
Oh, gotcha.
So that, um, yeah, that was a great one. That was a great read. Best book on the subject I've read. And what else is there? Okay, I think that's pretty much
Nice. Yeah,
that's good
I knew
enough
that'd be a
answer.
tough one for you. You read a lot. You read a lot of those like I suppose in the libraries they call them not nonfiction, right? So like
Yeah,
biographies
nonfiction. Yeah,
and
yes.
stuff like that. Gotcha. Awesome. I dig it. Yeah, I definitely tend to read more fiction. I don't get into a lot of um stories like that, but
Hmm.
one I might recommend would be like kind of ones that I really like. There's this one. It's a novella, so it's a shorter novel by one of my favorite authors, Brandon Sanderson, and it's
Hmm.
called, oh, I just forgot it. The Emperor's Soul is what it's called.
Hmm.
It won a Hugo Award, so it's kind of a shorter story, and it's really fun when there's this. There's a really like interesting type of magic that's basically you can convert things into other things like forgeries almost. And it's got this whole it kind of wraps up that magic system in with the story in an interesting way of like how people change, how people like modify how they are, and it's really interesting. It's written really well. It's like this person gets imprisoned and there's 100 days until their execution unless they like finish this task, and so every chapter it tells you how many days are left. So it's got that cool kind of countdown that'll get you in there. That's probably one of my favorites at the moment that I recommend other people for sure.
Wow, that's clever. That's a clever way to write a book, because like you have this time pressure element there, which like really makes you want to
Definitely,
read it, I think.
definitely, yeah. And I listened to that author has a couple of podcasts and things that he does, and he likes that's one of his favorite mechanics to use, or like you put a map in your book that's slowly being updated, and you can kind of see how the characters are going along on their journey. Like he brings up this one book, he read it. He's like, the book wasn't very good, but it had this map, and they're like traveling through the 9 rings of hell, and every chapter would show you which ring they're in, and it just kept going in. And he's like, well, I need to know what's in the middle, and so he just kept reading, even though the book wasn't particularly good. So it's definitely an interesting one.
What is it? The last ring of hell is frozen, right? I think that's how
I
Dante portrayed it.
I think so. It's been a long time since I read
Yeah.
anything that used that
Mm.
model, but I think that's right. Yep.
Mm. Yeah, like it's the paradox. The last ring, like the biggest, uh, the area of the most anticipated suffering is actually the paradoxically the opposite of what you would expect. So
Mm-hmm.
that's kind of cool.
For sure.
Hold on, let me just look at my library here real quick, because
Yeah. No
I
worries.
want to. Um, I'm reading The Dune. Also, The Dune is great. Like, I don't know if you've probably heard about that. It was like this huge motion picture this year.
Gotcha. It's just called Dune, right?
Dune, yeah,
Nice. Yeah, I have a my buddy Cole's actually reading that
by
uh
Brian Herbert. Yeah.
right now. Nice.
That's
Oh,
that's a great book. Yeah, that's an awesome one. I
gotcha. Yeah,
saw
I've
the
heard that
movie
movie.
and I was absolutely enchanted.
For sure. Yeah, I heard the movie was really good. And I got this decision. I'm like, do I go watch the movie before I read the book, or I don't know. I'll have to
Well,
see.
yeah, it depends how to what degree you can tolerate the anticipation, I guess.
Hmm.
Because
Yep.
with movie you're done in like 2 hours and you know how it's gonna end in
For
2 hours.
sure.
Basically, the book is
Yeah. For
it's a
sure.
brick.
I think I might end up watching the movie before I get to it, just because it's so big. Because I've done that with other books and things where I've seen the movie and then I've gone and read the book and I've still enjoyed them pretty good. So I think I'll probably end up doing it in that order, but we'll see how it works out.
Have you stumbled upon the work of this controversial Canadian psychologist, Jordan Peterson?
Oh yeah, I have actually. I read the first book that he came out with, 12 Rules for a Life. That one I
Yes.
did. I had that for a bit, and I read through that one. Um, yeah, I definitely like. I've listened to some podcasts where he was on. Like I think he was on Joe Rogan recently too. Um, but yeah, so I've definitely listened to quite a bit of his stuff. I tend to like it. Like he's like his style of talking and well, his style of writing in particular. It's like just word vomit. I like to call it. Right? He's just going. He'll pick something and he'll just like stream of consciousness this writes, and you'll find like 4 or 5 nuggets of like sentences or paragraphs that are just perfect, and they sum ideas up so well. And I'll sit there and I'll think about it, and they're like, yeah, and then you just gotta get through the rest of it to mine out those little, those little bits I like that are in good context, and they kind of hold the whole idea. But yeah, I definitely appreciate a lot of his writing for sure.
Mhm. Yeah, I think his work is pretty has been pretty influential on me. If you're asking about a favorite book, um, I haven't read fully the first one, but I know what it's about, and I've listened to podcasts and stuff, so it's kind of equivalent
Yep.
to what's in the book. And I'm reading through the second one. It's kind of controversial sometimes, I guess. I don't agree with everything.
Yeah,
Or
for sure.
it's like you have this sort of an aftertaste with something with some of the things he suggests, I think.
Hmm.
But definitely something I would recommend as well.
Yeah, for sure. For sure. Yeah, I definitely think it's worth a read. Yeah, I definitely don't agree
Yeah,
with everything that comes across there either, but it's pretty good. I like it.
right. All right. So it's my turn,
Yes,
I
sir.
suppose. What's a favorite possession of yours and why?
Favorite possession? Yeah, I was thinking about this one. So I usually I don't I'm like I don't know like I don't know I wouldn't say that I'm not material, right? I like having things, but I don't know if I have
Hmm.
like a necessarily like something that jumped in my mind right away. I've got a couple. My grandpa died this last year, mom's dad, and he left both me and my brother one of his rings that he always wore. So I've got that on a chain right now. I need to get a nicer chain for it. But I'd say that's definitely one of those favorite possessions that I'd be pretty sad if I lost. Um, and the other one that I could think of, I have like you'll probably remember this actually a little bit. When I came to Slovakia, Debbie and I were dating, and like while I was on that trip, we both like had a notebook and we were just like writing little letters to each other the whole time. And I have all of those letters in a stack, so I'd love to hold on to those too. But yeah, other than that, like I have too many cars, just like my dad. But I'd be fine with losing all those. Like I don't have any particular guitars or anything I'd hold on to. So I think those are the main ones.
Right. Well, you went way deeper than I thought when I was writing that question.
Oh, no
Uh,
worries.
I was like, oh well, this is something that I like that I own right now.
Yep. No worries.
No, but that's great. I thought you were gonna. I thought you were gonna say like a guitar or like something like that. But yeah, all right,
Yep.
that's pretty good. So you're the ring bearer.
Yep. Yeah, for sure. Like my thing I'd probably like if I was just going for more normal things, it'd probably be, one of the last couple cars I ended up buying or something like that, cuz I just like I always look through for just like weird fun cars that'd be that'd be weird to have, and then I end up with those, and they're always broken, and I spend hours fixing them. But yeah. So that's
So
probably what stick with.
what's your favorite car that you have right now?
Right now, I think right now it's probably this 2006 Subaru Baja Turbo. So they only made these things for like 3 years. They're sort of rare, um, but they're basically a Subaru Outback, like the
Hmm.
classic wagon that they have. But they just cut the rear off and put in a truck bed. So it's this tiny little like not a truck, and it's like lifted up a little bit. And my goal for it, I want to like put like off-road lights on top of it and make it look like it's pretending to be off-road, but it's really not, right? It's this
Very
tiny little.
agile, right?
Yeah, exactly. But yeah, turn it into like a fake off-roader is my plan. But that thing's always fun to have. It makes turbo noises when you hit the gas really hard. So at the moment, that's definitely my favorite.
That sounds great. Now it's your turn.
Yes, yes, it is. Let me pull up. Da-da-da-da-da. All right, here we go. Here's a good one. I definitely got to cover this one. What was your favorite and least favorite thing about living with my family in high school when you were over here for that year?
Wow, yeah, I thought a lot about this one. Favorite? Well, there's been a lot of favorites, I think. I really liked when we got the time to hang out. That was great. I remember this one time we drove up under this wind turbine or
Oh,
whatever
yep.
you call it. Yeah, and we tried to hit it. We tried to kick up a ball so the turbine would actually, or the one of the plates of the turbine would hit it.
Yeah.
I don't know if we succeeded. We probably didn't.
No, we didn't. It was way too high up there. We we
Yeah,
could not get it.
but even the feeling like you're standing when you're standing like right underneath it, the thing is just whooshing above your head. That was pretty. That's a great memory that I have. So I cherished that time very well. That was great, and I also loved the guns. I love the guns, man. It's one
Mm-hmm.
of the things I knew I was gonna miss, and it's the truth. I miss it a lot. I mean, not anymore because it's been quite a few years since,
Yep.
but I really missed it for some time. And what like if I ever returned to the U.S., I would definitely one of my stops would be like a shooting range or something.
Definitely. Nice.
I missed. It's just the thrill of it, and that was great.
Definitely.
And the least favorite, well, I mean, I don't know, I think the least favorite part is, and I thought about this, and it's the fact that I don't think I've got the full advantage of the opportunities that I've had while I was staying with your family, because I
Mm-hmm.
wish I got more into like this car repair stuff that you were doing with your father. I wish I learned a little bit from this, because I had the opportunity, but I didn't. So I wish I did that a little more. Learn a bit more about cars,
Gotcha. Mhm.
and all that. So I think that's I would say that. Yeah.
Nice. Yeah, I think I'd probably agree on that second point because like when I think back to it as well, I'm like man, we could have done so much more. I remember we had like Christmas break for
Yeah.
school, and like I remember we were both just like so freaking tired of school that we both were just like sitting in our rooms on our computers for like 3 days straight. I remember I like came up to the kitchen and you were in there, and I was like, oh hey man, I haven't seen you in like 3 days. But yeah, I think there's just so much more we could have done, right? I mean, I had my license. We could have just hopped in a car and drove like
Yeah.
8 hours somewhere. We could have
Right.
done a lot. So I definitely agree with like missed opportunities and whatnot.
Yeah. 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 Stuff like that. That's something I regret. Yeah, because like that's yeah, we could have done so much more, but that's like, I mean, what were we, like 16? Yeah, so
Yeah,
or
yeah, I
17,
think
was it
yeah, I think
16 or 17?
yeah, I
So
think 16. Let's see, that was my junior year. Yeah, I think
yeah,
16 because I think I'd gotten my license the summer before or something like that. So for
yeah, so
sure.
morons essentially, you
Yeah. Oh
you
yeah, we were
don't
we
know
were so
anything.
Yeah, my dad's favorite story is still when we took the sled behind the pickup truck out on the icy road and we're zipping down and like we're in the middle of nowhere, right? Nobody's around us. One truck drives by, happens to go into Dad's store later on. It's like, yeah, there's some dumbass kids out there on Highway 1. He's like, yeah.
Yeah, that was great. That was great, though.
Nice. Awesome, awesome. All right, well, over to your turn there, bud.
All right. Let's see. How did you come to choose your college major and your career path?
Definitely. Yeah. So this one, it's pretty simple. Like growing up, Dad obviously he ran his own business and stuff like that. So we
Mhm.
always he was always pushing like, hey, you should probably get something with like a business focus if you're gonna go to college and get a degree in that. So it's like okay, something with business, and then I visited a couple colleges, and one I was looking at was like an engineering program because if you're mildly smart, that's what you that's what you start looking at when you're in high school and don't know what you want to do. I wasn't very interested in that, but I'd taken a couple of computer science classes in high school, and I was pretty good at that. So we talked to a guy who was head of the management of information systems department. And at the college I was looking at, it was part of the business department, so you still took all the normal business classes. You took accounting and a couple things like that, management and marketing. But then you'd still take all of the computer science type courses. So it kind of seemed perfect for what I wanted to do. So I kind of ended up just following through on that. So it was a kind of easy decision to make, I'd say. I will say I did not like visit many colleges when I was in high school. I was just like I just really didn't want to look around and visit a bunch of places and then have to make a decision. It was so I visited like two places. I was like, hey, the other one. There you go.
This works.
Yeah, good enough for me.
Yeah, have you had any aspirations to go like to some Ivy League or something like that? Or
Definitely not to go to Ivy League or anything. I did right after I finished that degree. I did get my master's. So I have my master's in business intelligence and data analytics. But
Mhm.
um, just because coming fresh out, I was like, I feel like I'm going to want to get my master's at some point, and I don't want to like take a year or two off and then come back and have forgotten how to study and to do all these classes. So I took a program where I think in 2 or 3 years it was pretty cheap, and I was able to get a bunch of financial aid because we'd just gotten married and we were pretty poor. So I worked that one through there, but. I don't know if I'll ever go back. Like it'd be kind of fun to get like a doctorate in something fun, but I don't know if I'll ever do so. Yeah. All right. Let me find. Do, 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 let's see. We kind of covered that a little bit earlier. Let's go with. Let's talk a little bit about your interest in politics. I'm kind of interested on this one. So, like, even when you came over in the U.S., you were pretty interested in politics. I remember you talking with mom about it a lot, and you know, I was like, I don't know if you really want to talk to my mom about politics, man. Like, it's a bit of a minefield there, but but you were pretty interested in a lot of that. So where do you think like that interest came from? Like, is it from your parents or somewhere else?
Mhm. I don't even know, man, to be honest. I used to be very interested in, at first, I wanted to study chemistry, or, I was very good at physics when I was in elementary school and middle school, what you call middle school. Um, so I wanted to go that way, like this sort of natural science research. I really liked physics. Not only like I really liked it, like the subject itself. I had classmates, people hated it, but I happened to like it. So, but in high school something changed, and this has to do with the fact that I'm also open, like you. I have interests, broad interests, and well, why am I interested in politics? I don't know. It's just kind of cool, I guess. It's interesting. My last name, Stefanik, is he was the guy who I'm the name bearer of. Used to be like a,
Hmm.
or was like a big political figure in the 20th century.
Oh yeah, I remember
Um,
seeing that statue. We were in Bratislava.
right,
Yeah.
right, yeah, yeah. There you go. Yeah. So he was big, and so I think that sort of like I don't want to say predisposes me to do it, but there's some sort of a link there, and I always liked like geography and in history, and politics is very much about understanding these, and it's about understanding people. It's about trying to make people's lives better. You know, politicians have there was this poll in Slovakia, and being a politician came out to be the least desired occupation. Like 17% of people said that they would like to be a politician, or they like politics.
Smart people.
Yeah, yeah, yeah. So, I think politics has this reputation of dirty business, and it's justified to a large degree, I think. But I also think that unless people who are willing to take that on, unless people like that go into politics and they try to change something for the better,
Mm.
you know, your country will not improve. It just won't.
Mm-hmm.
So I think there's something like that. I just would like to. There's this. I was at this summer school in Slovakia, and we did it. It was like it was organized by the Ministry of Foreign Affairs, and we had an audition with the Ministry of Foreign Affairs of Slovakia. He's this really top notch diplomat. Used to be the ambassador to the United States, which is like one of the upper positions that you can achieve in diplomacy. And he said that, well, diplomacy and politics isn't for everyone, and the reason why is because it's a service. You're really serving your country. It's a service, and service is not for everybody. And so you're really serving a greater purpose than yourself. And I think that's one of the appeals for me, to serve something greater than myself. So I think it comes from something like that. I would say it's not for the power. I don't like to have power. It's not for the power.
Yeah.
It's for this. Yeah, I'd say.
Mm-hmm. Nice. Okay. Yeah, that makes a lot of sense. I like it.
Yeah. So over to me, I guess.
Yes, sir.
Do you have any entrepreneurial ideas that you would like to realize someday?
Um, Let me find my notes that I wrote down for this one. I definitely remember. Where did it go? Yeah, so there are definitely a couple that I like to realize. Like I don't know if any of the ones that I have for myself are particularly like financially viable, but like
Mhm.
Debbie, she's going to school for she's almost done for like apparel technology, so like making clothes and designing patterns for clothes and kind of like the engineering of clothes. And she's got this idea with a friend of hers that they're gonna like make clothes for like some like stuffed animals and Build-A-Bears and stuff like that because people collect these things, but there's nobody out there like making like custom clothes or like high quality stuff for them. So I think that could be a pretty good one that I think I could help them out with a little bit. But as for stuff that I'd like to do, I got a couple. One is they're called maker spaces over here, but they'll have stuff like it's kind of like a community, like usually they're nonprofits, but it's like a community space where they have like 3D printers and woodworking equipment and metalworking equipment and just various tools and stuff like that. And it's kind of like a gym, but you pay like your membership fees to be able to use the stuff that's there. Then you bring your materials and you can build stuff and they teach classes there, and they'll like work with schools in the area to like do some stuff like that. So I think that one for sure would be pretty fun. I don't know if you could run it in a way that wouldn't be like a nonprofit or something like that, like helping it out. Like I don't think your ability to make revenue would be particularly
Like Bezos
great.
doing this, yeah.
Yeah, for sure. Yeah, so I think that'd be a fun one. You kind of have to do as a nonprofit. The other one I have is I write short stories, I'm trying to
Hmm.
get like some together for a collection, and kind of like a problem with writing short stories is that like because if you write something long enough to be a book, you can sell it, right? And if you have something that's short enough that it's like an article, you could sell it, right? But that usually doesn't work with like fiction or short stories in general. Like there's a problem of like
Hmm.
the way that people kind of digest it. So it kind of be, I think you could do something kind of like with Substack, where it's kind of like an email newsletter, and people subscribe to just get periodic, like a
Hmm.
monthly newsletter almost that maybe would have a few short stories in it. So I like to kind of think of a place where you kind of if you got like a network of enough authors together who would write short stories um, that you could kind of almost run it out of Substack and just like get together a few stories every month, send them out to a group, and that way you can get like different authors exposure. That way you can kind of like hopefully make like a symbiotic relationship between the authors and the site and everything like that. So I'd like to try to figure out something like that, but that'd probably be a ways down the road.
Hmm. That's a good idea, I think. And I think what you're describing is that, or the way you describe how you would like to go about this used to be what they've done in the past, right? Like in the
Mm-hmm.
past, newspapers came out and was pretty much the only thing people could afford to read because books were expensive, right?
Mm-hmm.
And so newspapers also published these little stories, be it it was oftentimes times fiction as well.
Mm-hmm.
So you're basically trying to adapt it to 21st century, and
Definitely. Yep.
newsletter is a good idea.
Nice.
Yeah,
Yeah,
not
for
bad,
sure.
man.
Well,
Not
thank
bad.
you. Yeah, do you got it? You got. I mean, I know you've got an entrepreneurial streak going on. There's no way you don't have some ideas for some
I
ideas.
do.
Yeah.
I do. I have like I always write it down into my phone, in
Mm-hmm.
my notes. But there's this one thing it sounds like it's a very specific market, right? Um, but I think it could really work. So in most cities in Western Europe, in almost in every convenience store that you go to, you have like a machine that can process oranges and give you fresh juice, right? Almost every store has it.
Mm-hmm.
And over here, like nobody has ever, nobody has really done that, neither in Prague nor in Bratislava.
Mm-hmm.
And so I think that like this is a really good opportunity because people are on the run. You go into a store and you grabbing quick breakfast. You grab a croissant and you
Mm-hmm.
grab some fresh juice, and you go about your way. And I think this is nobody's doing it as of now. And I think this could really be something that because it's easy to set up. I've looked up how much the machines cost.
Mm-hmm.
It's not very cost intensive. So I thought this could be good. Also, you could if you wanna like alter the business model a little bit, you could rent these machines to like big store supermarkets.
Mm-hmm.
You just service them basically for the markets, and they have to supply the oranges and all of that. So I thought about this one because as of now, there's like within the European Union, there's a thing called free trade. So there's no tolls for stuff that's carried over borders.
Mm-hmm.
So you can basically get oranges from Croatia or Portugal or Spain for very cheap because there is
Mm-hmm.
no tolls when it goes through the customs.
Oh, nice.
So it's not very cost intensive, neither on the product end nor on the machinery end or technical end.
Mm-hmm.
So I'm thinking this could be good. But I have a lot more. But this is something it's just
Yeah,
on top of my
definitely.
mind right now. Yeah.
Cool. Yeah, I like that idea. Yeah, 'cause like you can go in and maybe you can get like you can get like your plastic bottle of orange juice or whatever.
Yeah.
But if they're like there and maybe like even like every morning they have an employee back there who fresh squeezes
Yeah.
100 like glass bottles, like they look all organic and fancy like that, and it's freshly squeezed juice from that morning. I think that's a good idea. Yeah, that's
It's
cool.
not it's not even that expensive. I mean, when I was in Brussels, I used to I sometimes bought this, right? And it was like a bottle, which it was like half a liter. I don't know how much, you know, OZ or whatever you've got there.
Yep, no worries.
That is half a liter cost around. I think it was either 3 or 4 euros, which is
Hmm.
it's fine when you're living in a big city like that. So if, not very expensive, and it could really work. And I don't see anybody doing it right now. And it's if you would capture if you would capture this market, it's something that would be outstanding. Also, I have another idea, which I was thinking about, this one is kind of more difficult to do, but I've done this. I've had this course on at school on artificial intelligence, and I was working because my degree runs runs a couple of courses which have to do with like contemporary security and AI and stuff. And we've done this. I've had this course called Security and Technology, and my research paper on this basically analyzed how to use blockchain in weapons smuggling, or how to use blockchain to prevent weapon smuggling, right?
Nice.
Because I found this paper which basically explained how blockchain prevents, or use of blockchain prevents smuggling of wood in Siberia between China and Russia. And I thought, well, if you can do it for wood, you could perhaps do it for weapons. And I really think that this could be done. I've written about this in my paper, and it seems like it could be done. I don't have the technical end figured out because I'm not technically savvy like that, but it could definitely be done, I think. And I think this is like a rich idea here. If you could figure this out, yeah, governments would I see governments paying some bucks for this.
Oh, definitely. Yes. Maybe over there in Europe. Listen, over here in America, we like our weapons smuggled. All right, we don't. You don't touch those guns. I'm kidding. But yeah, I think that's a pretty interesting idea. I like it.
Yeah. Well, all right. Is it your turn? I think it's your turn,
Yeah,
right?
yeah. It's over my turn here. Let me see. I've got. Do, 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 do. This is always a fun one that I'd like to ask. Like, what do you think that like 12-year-old you would think about you now? Like, do you think they'd look and be like, oh dang, I turn out pretty good. That'd be all right. I think they'd be like, yeah, lame.
Fuck that guy.
That guy, man.
I think it would be fine. For me, I remember when I was 12, we went to Vienna, I think, once from it was like a school trip to Vienna. And Vienna seemed like this huge city, a lot of people everywhere, hassle, the rush of the
Mm.
bigger cities. And I thought, wow, this is like doing something like this, or working in this environment that, what do you have to be like to bear that?
Mm.
And I seem to be doing just fine doing that right now. So I think that
Nice.
that's something that's cool. I think, like learning to live in big cities and knowing that you can take care of yourself, knowing that you can
Mm.
like get by.
Nice.
No problem. Yes, I think that's my 12-year-old would be like, nice, GG, well played.
GG,
uh,
I conquered the cities, man. I like it.
how about you? What would your 12-year-old self say?
I think I think 12-year-old me would be pretty good, right? I grew out a solid beard, right? So 12-year-old me, I was a late bloomer puberty wise, so I think he'd enjoy seeing that. I think he'd enjoy that I'm taller than most of my family. I'm like five
Oh
foot
yeah.
eleven, which is giant for my family. So I think I think he'd be pretty happy with that. Um, Overall, for like what I do for a job, I don't know how he'd feel. It'd be an interesting one. Like I think he'd be disappointed that I wasn't playing more video games. Uh, and maybe like I think 12-year-old me would have really liked like just like some like weird out there way of like a career or something, like like blazing a new path, figured out how to make money in a new and interesting way. But I think overall they'd be pretty cool with how things turned out. So yeah.
Nice. Yeah, that's a good answer.
Nice, nice.
All right, let's see. What is your relationship to faith? What are your views on formal religious practice?
Yeah, for sure. Yeah, this was a really interesting one. Let me pop my notes up here. See what I wrote down
Keep
on
'em
this
popping.
one. Yeah, so I like I wouldn't consider myself a particularly religious person. So like as far as formal religious practice goes, I'm not
Hmm.
like I really do I appreciate traditions, right? Like I really like that people like have traditions, right? And churches have traditions. But I really hate it when like people like pretend that there's some more significance to this tradition, or like this tradition is necessary for like salvation or something like that. Like for example, Lutherans like you need to baptize your babies. If you don't sprinkle water on them, they're going to hell. like I don't think so, right? I'm totally down. The church we go to now, they don't baptize babies and they still do baptism, but it's more like they treat it like it's a symbol of like you decide like, hey, I want to get baptized. Just like this is like a symbol of my faith and whatnot. Like not that like the water doesn't do anything to you or stuff, something like that. So like I appreciate traditions, but not necessarily like doctrinal religious practices like that. Um, I really like the community of like going to church and stuff like that, and a lot of the teachings that are just kind of general, like a lot of it, like I get important lessons of it about it from my life. But I wouldn't say like I'm a particularly religious person. I think like for example, I think that Jesus probably was around, but I don't necessarily think every single word in the Bible is like completely as it passed out the lips of God. It was written straight down. Like I think that's taking it a bit far, but yeah, so that's kind of where I'm at with it at the moment. Yeah.
Yeah, and how about like because religion and faith are different things, right? So
Mm-hmm.
so how about faith? Like how do you view faith itself?
Hmm. I don't know. I don't know if that's necessarily something that I think about very often. I think I don't know. I'm usually a particularly like logical and um like grounded person. So I'm not like I've never had like a lot of people talk like they have like a relationship with God or something like that. And I think probably the closest I've come to is like I'll sometimes just like have conversations where where I'll like talk with God and I'll be like thinking through my own thoughts and stuff. And sometimes I'll be like, I think I got some resolution to what I was talking about here. Thanks, man. But yeah. So that's kind of where it's at for me. I don't yeah, I like have conversations, but I don't know if I've ever like felt any like deep like deep connection in my heart or anything like that.
Yeah, I remember this one time when we were together in Slovakia in Bratislava, and I lived in this dorm, right?
Oh
And
yeah.
you were outside in your hammock. You hung up your hammock on one of the balconies, and I came to see you, and you told me like I asked you what are you doing? Yeah, and you said I'm talking to God, and and that was something that I like that struck me
Mm-hmm.
because I think that you really can like if you ask something like you can um, receive like an unconscious answer or something like that. I don't know if that's
Mm-hmm.
God or like it depends how you define it, I guess, right?
Mm-hmm.
But that's something that's interesting, right? That if you ask a question, you will like receive an answer. So
Yeah, definitely, definitely. I really like when you get into like a calm, peaceful place like that. Like if you're in a hammock with a good view, or if you're out in the
mm,
woods or something. Like I think particularly when like things are quiet around you. I think there's definitely something to that. Yeah.
yeah, all right, interesting. I was wondering because like we went to this religious high school, right? And I
Yeah.
remember listen, I dug up the old religion papers or something like the essays that we've
Oh
written in
yeah.
our religion class. Oh man, Jesus.
Jeez, yeah, like it always depended on the pastor that was teaching the class. Like some of the pastors, like they're really cool. I think I learned a lot from them. But some of them they just be like straight out of Luther's small catechism. This is the way it is. Like or like they do the thing where they're like, listen, you're supposed to struggle and ask questions, with Christianity and with religion and stuff like that. That's the point of it. And then you'd be like, oh, gotcha, awesome, I'm struggling with this. And they'd be like, oh, gotcha, well, you're wrong. It's like, but.
Yep. Yeah, yeah, I know what you're talking about. Yeah, there was this essay we've written. Oh, anyways, I'm going off on a tangent. This is it too long of a story to start
Gotcha.
now. But anyways, yeah, I share your sentiment.
Definitely. All right, awesome. Let me see. I think I got through a lot of my questions. Let me see. I definitely got. Oh, yeah, this is always a fun one, a fun hypothetical. So like, if you start your life over, right? And like I don't know, you still like have your knowledge from this life or something like that maybe, or like a rough idea at least, and you're like starting over. Like, would
Mhm.
you would you try to like take a completely different path in your life, like make different choices and just see like, hey, see what happens, or do you think you'd kind of like maybe stick to the same general path and maybe like optimize, right? Because people I've asked, they're usually in either category. Like they'd go completely different, or they would just like stay the same general course but optimize all their choices so that it worked out perfect.
Yeah, I've thought about this question a lot, and I'm really not sure. I don't know. I'm pretty happy with my life, so I think I would just perhaps optimize for the mistakes I've made and
Mm-hmm.
just stick with my life, perhaps. But there's this other hand. On the other hand, you could say that there's the other side of the coin, and like knowing what your life looks like right now and
Mm-hmm.
carrying that knowledge, you could choose a completely different one. It's sort of like this curiosity and adventure of choosing something completely different, outlandish,
Mm-hmm.
and yeah. So I think I'm not really decided on that. Not sure which I would. Perhaps like 51 to 49 on optimizing my own
Gotcha.
path.
Yeah, I think I
How about
think I
you?
think for sure another thing is like, how long do I live out this path before it resets, right? Because like right now,
Yep.
I'm like, I'm 24 or whatever. Like, um, like at this point, I'm like, oh well, I still like have I have another 40 years at least, of life probably after this that I don't necessarily know how it worked out. So if I go down that same path, I'm still gonna get some of those new experiences. Whereas, like let's say you're like set in your 70s or something when it resets, you're like, well, I mean, I kind of lived that path out to its fullest. Maybe I'll pick a different one. So that's probably another factor. I think I'd
Yeah,
probably
that's.
go completely different because I think if I tried going on the same path, like I
Mhm.
think I'd get into it too much. Like it'd be like a stealth video game, when you're like spotted by one person and you got to reset the whole level. All right, you'd be like, dang it, I messed up my optimization. I still screwed it up. Damn it. Right. Whereas if I'm
Mhm.
on a completely new path, then I'm like, yeah, I'm still cool with making more mistakes this way. Um,
That's a great point of view. I think you can't really, because that's true. You can't really optimize your life. I mean, how do you know? How the hell do you know what's optimized? You know?
exactly. Like it'd be the worst to like go down the same path,
Uh,
like make decisions that you're like, here we go.
yeah,
Finally, I can fix this, and then, and then it just it fucks you up
it's
even
a
worse.
complete disaster.
Like, oh, like that. That would be the worst.
Yep. Yep. Yeah, there you go. Okay. Have you ever had any religious experiences?
Um, I don't think so. Like in the like in any particular sense, aside from like having conversations with God and maybe feeling like I've kind of gotten an answer. Um, I've never had any particular like I got knocked out when I was a kid and I saw angels in heaven, stuff like that, or things like that. I don't think I've ever had any encounters with like angels or demons or um, stuff like that. So I don't think I've had any particularly religious experiences. I will say probably the closest I come um is like playing music in church or singing along to music in church. Like when there's a real banging song that I like singing. That's probably the closest I come to a religious experience. Like I just love it.
Yeah, I've had a religious experience once, I think, or a couple times perhaps, but there was this one time that it was during my stay in the States, and it was this new house that we moved to, and there was this as a result of I really thought a lot about theology and religion. I don't know what's a result. I don't know what caused that, but I thought about religion a lot, and I researched researched the different religions and how they, how that those different traditions developed and all of that. And there was this one time that a religious experience is basically something that happens to you, and you have like a physical reaction to it, right? And so I started to cry, my body was shaking, and all of this, and so that was something that I've had. It sounds weird, but I felt presence of something, and perhaps it's just, you can say that it's just chemically induced in my brain or something, but it felt like there's a presence of something, and I've had this emotional, physical reaction to it. So that was pretty strange. There was also this one time I've had this what's called a sleep paralysis. I don't know if you've heard about
Oh,
sleep
yep.
paralysis.
Hmm.
Yeah, I've had that 3 times in my life. I think it was 3 or 4, but I remember three definitely. And the first time that I've had this was, it's basically, so for the people who don't know, sleep paralysis is a state in which you can't move your body, but you're awake. So basically you go to sleep, and then you sort of wake up, your brain wakes up, but your body doesn't. So you
Hmm.
can't move your limbs, you can't use your muscles in your throat, so you can't scream, but you can move your eyes, which is weird. I can move my eyes.
Hmm.
And I didn't know what was going on, and I thought I was dying because my eyes were closing, right? And I was really struggling to keep them open because I thought that when I close them, it's over. Like they're gonna find me in my room, in the
Hmm.
morning, dead. And yeah, so I closed my. Finally, I succumb to the struggle, and I closed my eyes, and it threw me into this weird dream. So I was in my like 4 or 5 year old body, and it was night, and I was walking up this road that's in front of my grandma's house where I grew up, and I was walking up this road. I was dragging like a toy that I had. It was like a truck or something. I was dragging it, and I was dragging this truck at night. I remember looking at my hands. I was conscious that I was dreaming. I looked at my hands, and my hands were a hand of a kid. Like me when I was a kid. I was dragging this toy, and I went to this kindergarten place where it was like an outside place for playing, and there was this like a sand area, like a sandbox. Yeah, that's what you call it, sandbox. There was a sandbox, and I sat in the sandbox, and I was there alone. It was night, and all of a sudden, this kindergarten place was next to this road I was walking up on, and all of a sudden, there's a bus driving on that road, empty, with the lights turned on, with no driver, and this bus was just going slowly, and I watched it pass, and I said, all right, well, this is getting weird, right? And I said to myself, okay, God, if you help me wake up, I'll believe. Boom, and I woke up.
Dang.
Yeah, yeah, that was so. I woke up, and I was like, well, holy shit,
You're like, well,
what?
damn.
Yeah, well, damn, what just happened? So I wrote it down, and yeah, so that was something that was super super strange.
Nice. That's
Yeah,
awesome.
yeah.
Super cool. I like that. All right. Let's see. I think it's over to my turn here. Um. Oh, yeah, here we go. So we touched on this a little bit earlier, but what are kind of your thoughts on declining birth rates in general, right? Because obviously I think it's they're definitely lower over in Europe than they are here, generally speaking. Like I think
Yeah,
I can't remember
I
what the
think so.
what the metric is, but it's like over in the US it's like 11 per 10,000 or something, and over in Slovakia I think it was like 6 per 10,000 or something like that. I could something however those numbers work out. But I've heard some conversation on like some podcasts and things over here in the U.S. about it. But what are your thoughts on it? I'm kind of curious, like for like maybe little regional differences or something like that.
Well, I definitely think that it's going to be a huge problem into the future.
Mm,
Because I think what happened, and we talked about this with my girlfriend, I think what happened is that, um, our life expectancy got higher and higher as we developed,
for
right? Better
sure.
nutrition and all of that, less manual labor. Um, so our lives got longer, but the reproductive cycles of women stayed the same,
Mm,
right?
mm-hmm,
And so the best age in which women can have kids is from like, I think it was from 18 to like 28 or something. I think it's
mm-hmm,
the optimal age or something like that. And the older you are as a woman, the worse, um, the more risk you're taking on when
mm-hmm,
you're in your pregnancy, right? And so I think as our societies developed and as they got more and more complicated, they also raised demands on the individuals, right? Which is fine because which is fine age-wise because the longer life expectancy compensated for that. But it's not good for having children because
mm-hmm,
nowadays if you want to have a career, you have to go to college and then get a master's degree and then perhaps depending on your field, perhaps even get further on with your studies, which is really taxing on women because those are the people who are having kids, right?
mm-hmm,
And that's really taxing on women, I think, and they have to squeeze a lot of things into a pretty short time frame, right? And I think that our society's got way, I don't want to say way more developed than we can catch up with, but it's something like that. We got very developed really fast, and the demands on individuals rose. So therefore, birth rates are plummeting because there's just not enough time. And also, some people choose not to have kids, right? Because they want to
mm-hmm,
focus on career, and today nowadays it became a choice to have kids, really,
mm-hmm.
because you know we have contraception that's available widely, which perhaps it should be a choice, arguably.
Mm-hmm.
Since having kids is a choice, which is a new thing, like it's you know I don't know how old condoms are, but they're not very old,
Yeah.
or hormonal
Mm-hmm.
thing. Uh, I don't know how old that is, but it's not very old. So I think we're still sort of like getting used to it. And yeah, nowadays having a kid is a choice. It wasn't like that in the recent past, right?
Yeah,
So,
for sure.
and I think it's going to be a real problem for us into the future
Mm-hmm.
because I'm sort of a believer in human potential and all
Yep.
of that. I think that people like having less people doesn't solve the problem, of
Yeah,
the environment or and all of that. So I'm like I have this pro people attitude. So
for sure. Yeah, I think I'm kind of interested because obviously there's a lot of the effects, like that you can actually get contraception and birth control
mm,
nowadays. So that's obviously responsible for a healthy chunk of it. Particularly like modern societies as more people are brought up brought up to modern standards of living and things like that around the world. You see that generally decrease. The birth rates kind of decrease as their like standard of living kind of increases. Um, but I think like just from conversations that I've been hearing, I think with the new generations that are kind of coming into adulthood now, I think there might be a little bit of a pushback, and so I'm kind of interested to see like because there's those mechanical factors that are having a way, but I'm wondering how much like a cultural change would be able to reverse it, just because a lot of people I've met like for instance people just a few years older than me the millennial generation, right? They're kind of like the peak of kind of career focused. They're just kind of deciding not to have kids. And I'm kind of curious with our generation because most people I've talked to, there's kind of some pushback against that. Like they definitely want to have kids, at least in conversations that I've had more so than millennials. So I'm kind of interested, like if it'll, bump birth rates if they'll go back up for a little bit, or how that'll play with the other factors that are in there. Um, but yeah, at least over here in the U.S., that's conversations I've had. So
That's interesting. That's cool. I don't know how it's in Europe, but I mean, yeah, like when I look at my peers, most of us want to have kids, I think. And even the people who said, I'm never having kids, those are the ones that, they have kids right now. So got married first and
hmm
they are having kids right now. So who knows? But I definitely think that, yeah, this is not something that we should restrain from, like
hmm.
having kids.
Yeah, for sure. I'm kind of curious if because obviously over in Europe, population density is higher as well. Like here in the U.S., like I don't think anyone like we could have three times the population, like 1 billion people populating the U.S., and we'd have the population density of like France or something like that, right? Which is not like a hugely, it's not India, right? It's not a really really dense
Yeah.
country or anything. So, um, I wonder if kind of like if to a certain extent people are kind of like water, right? So they'll fill whatever container they're in. So if having less population density probably actually that probably correlates. That has to correlate population density and birth rates. Now think about it. I'll have to look that up later. Hmm.
Maybe, but if you look at countries that are developing, those are the ones that have high population density and both high birth rates.
It
So
is true. Mm-hmm. Yeah, I'll have to look into it because it's like because places like, for instance, India, right? They're going on. They got a bit of a technical revolution going on right now. I'd be curious to see their recent years with their birth rates because they definitely have a ton of people, but they're kind of shifting into a different sort of economy than like being, um, like a manufacturing center. They do a lot more technological stuff over there now. So I'm kind of interested in it's all sorts of weird economic stuff at this point, but
yeah, I
interesting.
agree. This is a very interesting topic. I think. Yeah, this is definitely something worth looking into.
Yeah. Awesome. All right. Let's see. Was that my question? Yes, that was my question. Over to
Yeah.
you.
All right. So from your last visit, do you remember any great differences you spotted between Minnesota and Slovakia and Czechia?
Yeah. Yes. There are some like I think like trains are awesome, right? Over in Europe, I love me some trains. Like I've always loved trains in general. Like you go to like Washington D.C. for our senior trip, they have the metro, the underground train there. I've really got a thing for trains, so I definitely like that. Um, like I live a block away from the light rail here, the above ground tram that they have in Minneapolis, but it's like they have one strip that goes east to west, back and forth, and then they have one strip that goes north to south. And we're such a spread out city that you don't really get to use it a whole lot. Um, so definitely the public transportation thing. That was definitely a big difference. The other one, I think, like some stores that we went into. Like I remember we went to one big mall in Bratislava, and that was kind of close to a mall in the U.S. That was pretty similar, but like convenience stores and things like that around, and just seeing like what different sorts of products they carry and stuff like that compared to places around here, like water, right? All the water you guys drink over there, it's what do we call it over here? Like just soda, I suppose is what we call it. Like normal, like carbonated water, like seltzer or something like that. Normally, whereas over here we just get straight. Like if you want something for free, it's tap water. You just pour it in a cup and go with it. So that was definitely interesting. I got a bit of a taste for that water when I was over there. It took some getting used to. So now I came back over here, and seltzers are a big thing over here, like hard seltzers or Lacroix or something like that. That's like slightly flavored carbonated water like that, and everybody else is like, "Wow, this tastes so bad." I'm like, I kind of got a bit of a taste for it, just like the tiniest bit of flavor. Um, so that was pretty good. But let's see what else did I go here. I did have like obviously how old everything is as well. Like over here, like we're looking to buy a house, and it's like 100 years old, just about. And they're like, "Whoa, it's so old." But over there in Europe, like we just walk around and it would like turn right down a random alley, and it's like, oh, there's this weird open air bar built into this like medieval castle wall or whatever. So that was super cool. And then the last one I went down, I don't know why, but I had this feeling of like I had this feeling that like life or like things there were more defined. I don't necessarily know how to explain it, but like it didn't seem as like I don't know what the word is. It's not like open. Like I don't know when I'm over here in like and I'm just like messing around in the cities or wherever I'm around. There's this feeling of like aimlessness almost. Like you can just kind of go around and you can do whatever you want. You can do all of this stuff. Whereas over there, it felt like there was more like defined options for what you could do. Maybe part of that is just the train system in general, I suppose, because you can just hop on that and it'll take you to certain spots. But yeah, so those were the biggest things. I think that were the big differences.
Oh, that's really interesting. That's really cool. Yeah, one of the things that I've noticed what was different when I came to the States or to Minnesota was was the fact that everything is huge,
Oh yeah.
like huge malls, roads are super wide, huge cars. Everything is huge, basically
Yeah.
huge.
Yeah, the
Yeah,
best
so
selling the best selling vehicles in I think almost every state right now are trucks. Like
yeah,
big and they're full size pickup trucks nowadays are massive, right? They're almost like 80 inches wide or whatever. And all
jeez.
the roads are built to park one on each side and fit another two driving down the middle. It's definitely nuts. Like you go over there, things are just so much closer together and congested.
Yeah.
Like you would not want a car if you're living in in the cities over there, right? But if you're living in like Minneapolis, right, this city, or particularly, I went down to Texas not too long ago, like the Dallas Fort Worth area, and they built like this medium-sized city, and then everybody kept wanting to move there, so they just built more medium-sized city. It didn't get denser; it just got wider. So it's so massive. Like driving from one side to the other in a vehicle on a highway at 70 miles an hour takes like an hour and a half in Dallas Fort Worth. It's like
Holy cow.
they're just so spread out in comparison. It's really interesting.
Yeah, the U.S. is huge. Like when you think about it, it's just the mass, the area, the massive area the U.S.
Hmm.
has. It's huge compared to Europe. Everything is more denser. I remember when I came back after a year I've spent with you. I remember my dad was taking me from Budapest from the airport, and I remember thinking like the roads here are so freaking narrow.
Yeah.
How can you drive on this? It's like yeah. So I remember thinking that, and it got a little bit of it. I had to get used to it, like how narrow everything was.
Hmm.
But yeah,
Yeah.
that's definitely something that's noticeable.
Yeah, for sure. Yeah, it's interesting. Yeah, like you were planning out that road trip that hopefully we'll
Yeah,
get to over there
I
sometime
hope
soon.
so.
And you're like
Mhm.
planning out this route. And I think what was it? If you did it all at once, I think it was like a 29-hour drive or something. We're going through like 5 countries or whatever, right? And then I'd just done a trip with some of my friends like 2 or 3 years ago where we drove all the way to Arizona and then back up to Minnesota, and it was like the drive there was 24 straight hours, and that's not even the longest distance you could drive in the U.S. It's nuts.
Yeah.
Uh,
Yeah, the sense of scale is like, over here, people are lazy to drive for 2 hours because that's a long drive. 2 hours,
yep,
But in the US, 2 hours, it's like that's the next neighborhood.
exactly.
It's
There's a story. This story I read, it was like some guy in England, right? Because England's like they're an island. They're
yeah.
super tough. The guy like he hadn't seen his father in 10 years because he was a 90-minute drive away. I was like, what? I've
I
like
suspect there
accidentally
were
driven
other
90 minutes.
reasons. Okay.
It's too far. Can't do it. Like,
Yeah,
oh,
yeah, yeah, yeah.
it's just really really interesting. I don't know.
Yeah, and also, I've also spent some time in Ireland. I've lived there for 3 months
Hmm.
near Dublin, and if you think that roads are narrow in Slovakia, let's say, you haven't been to Ireland. Like the roads there are super narrow. It's like you have to drive like a I don't know, like a Fiat 500, like, one of those
Yeah, those
mini
the
cars.
really tiny ones. Yeah, there was a. I saw this interview with there was this guy. He moved to France from the U.S. and he decided for some reason he was rich and he's stupid, right? So he imported his Chevy Tahoe over there, right? So this big
Okay, that's
SUV.
a big truck. Yeah, he
Yeah,
had.
in the U.S., right? There's the Tahoe, and that's the smaller version of a Suburban, right? So it's like
Yes.
that's not even a big truck in the U.S. But he's like, this thing was the equivalent of like driving a military Humvee around in France. He's like pulling in the mirrors to drive down the streets. There's scratches all over this thing now because of it.
Yeah.
And everybody, like, you see him drive by and they're like, what? Why would you drive that in France? He's just like, he's like, this car, like in the US, right? You can get a used one of these a few years old for like 5 grand, right? When I sold this thing in France, a guy bought it for me for 80 because nobody has a Chevy Tahoe in France.
Jeez. Wow. Yeah, that's really a thing. And France is really particular in this. The French, their relationship to cars is, they make cheap cars, right? Renault
Hmm.
and Peugeot, right? And they're these cars that are easy to fix, or they're cheap to fix. I'd say not
Hmm.
perhaps not easy, not at least not nowadays, but they're cheap to fix, right? And the relationship of the French to their cars is, if you bump it, you bump it. It's got a little
Hmm.
dent here and
Yep.
there. It's fine. And and if you're this German like asshole who polishes his car every Saturday, you're looked down upon.
For sure.
So,
Oh, that's actually really interesting. So there's this I don't remember if I told you about it or not, but there's this this event over here in the US that we did last year called the 24 Hours of Lemons.
mm,
Right, so there's the 24 Hours of Le Mans in France, and that's like all the
right.
automakers that bring their stuff. It's a big 24 hours. You get as many laps in as you can. It's this big deal. So they made this over here in the U.S. where they do the same concept. So you go out here and you drive for like 8 hours or whatever, and you get in as many laps around these tracks as you can. But you have a budget limit. You can only spend $500 on your car. And so people bring in the crappiest cars and endurance race them these tracks. It was fantastic. I took one of Dad's old station wagons and I slapped a roll cage in it. We took it racing. It was super fun. But they have this version of it called Lemons Rally, where you just like it's like kind of like a scenic tour of an area of the U.S. and you still try to bring just the weirdest, dumbest cars. And they have a point system. It's basically like like how many of these landmarks you see or the funniest pictures you take and stuff like that. But you also get a lot of points depending on what car you bring. And the crappier your car is, the more points you get. And so they they have it set up so that depending on the nationality of your car, you get a certain amount of points, right? Like if you bring a German or a Japanese car, you get negative points, right? Because they're too reliable. They're too well built. And so if you bring like a French car, ooh, that's worth like 100 points, right? And then if you bring one from like they call the category Warsaw Pact, right? So from like Russia or Yugoslavia or something like that, if you bring one of
Yeah.
they're 200 points. They're the crappiest cars around. British cars, you get some points too,
Uh,
but the entire idea is to get the crappiest cars. And so like French is one of the worst cars you can get. The older your car, the better. Oh, it's I just thought that was funny because it's all related to the nationality, and you can definitely tell cars are
Definitely.
like one of those things that are so like regional, depending on where you
Yeah.
manufacture. It's always super interesting.
It's starting to change, I feel like, perhaps in the last
Mm-hmm.
decade. Like the French cars got closer to the German ones,
Mm-hmm.
design wise. And like if you look at the new, I don't know, Renault, let's say, if you look at the new models, they look very much like the German type of design of
Definitely.
Mercedes or Audi. So it's getting closer. But yeah, I mean, it's definitely still there. The element
Yep.
is still there.
It's pretty interesting. Yeah, it's like because cars in general, like over the last 10 or 20 years or so, have gotten better, right? Like you used to be able to
Yeah,
go and you could buy a car and it would just be a total shit box, right? Like they could break down. Right nowadays, you can get the biggest piece of shit, like I don't know, a Mitsubishi Mirage or something like
yeah,
that, right?
yep,
It's kind of the worst car you could ever get nowadays, new, and it's still pretty good compared to older cars. So
yeah.
like
That's
with
true.
globalization and engineers getting fixed around between companies and all the car companies buying each other. Like, I think it's true that you're losing a lot of that. Like, it's good in some ways because the cars are nicer, but you're losing a lot of that like individuality that you had
Hmm.
with the regional
Precisely.
differences. But
Precisely. Yeah, that's what I think as well. That's a little bit of a shame, but yeah, you get more reliable cars as a result, I guess. But like in general, but also, I mean, with this reliability thing, I think that like nowadays cars have so many electronic parts which can break that
mm-hmm.
it kind of negates the whole concept of being reliable, right? Because like you have
Yeah.
this one part that's like this big, and it breaks and it costs like I don't know $500 to get fixed or something,
Yeah,
so it's kind of like
yeah, we're in kind of this. There's an interesting, at least in the U.S., this is for sure happening. But like a lot of there's a big push for electric cars and newer powertrains,
mhm.
and so like the newer engines that they're designing, they're kind of in this weird spot where their technology isn't far enough for them to go fully electric, so they have to still match like like the newer emissions regulations, and so you have this technology that kind of chokes these engines out, and they have to build in all the safety features and the carbon scrubbers and build them for certain requirements like that, and you lose a lot of that reliability. Usually, it's actually one of the reasons why trucks and larger vehicles tend to be very popular is because they're exempt from some of those, just because if you get over a certain size or a certain category of vehicle, you don't have as tough emissions requirements. Um, but yeah, so it's interesting when like modern engines, like they can be kind of hit or miss. Like generally they're pretty decent, but like you said, you'll get some electronic sensor that they buried all the way in the middle of the engine, and it's not worth the value of the car to replace it anymore.
Right.
Hmm.
Yeah, right, exactly. Yeah.
Nice, awesome. All right, so let's see, that one was one of your questions. Let me see what I've got here. I think we're getting towards the end of my questions. Oh, here's a fun one. So, what are like some of your current goals that you have? Like, either like maybe a skill you're currently trying to learn, or something you want to learn more about, or someplace you want to go. Like, what are just some of those like shorter term current goals that you got?
Well, I think number one is finishing school, probably. Getting my thesis done and passing the exams, like the state exams, and so that's number one. Next, I would like to do an internship in CPRI. That's a Stockholm Peace Research Institute, something like that. Yeah, it's Stockholm Peace Research Institute,
Hmm.
and that's like a really prestigious think tank in Europe, which deals with security and peace and conflicts. So it's my area of expertise.
Nice.
So I'd like to get an internship there. Perhaps if that works out, that would be great. If not, I have another internship that I would like to do. It's in Berlin in this think tank called um, Council for Foreign Relations.
Mm.
So that's in Berlin, which would be over the summer, but we'll see about that because we want to have this trip. We want to do that. So that's one of those things as well. And so, yeah, I think my degree, and I would like to read more. I'm sort of I love to read, and I love I love information,
Mm.
but I think I really need to amp up my reading speed. Although college like trained me to amp it up, but like if you really focus on retention, I feel like you have to read slower because
Hmm.
like it just won't stick. That's been my experience. If I try
For
to
sure.
like read super fast, especially nonfiction. I mean, fiction you can read pretty fast, but
Hmm.
if you're reading nonfiction, you have to take your time with it if you want that information to stay with
Definitely.
you.
Yeah,
Yeah,
definitely. If you're trying to do study or something like that, yeah, slowing down, taking some notes and stuff like that for sure.
yeah. Because I mean, what's the point otherwise? I mean, you're reading this book or a paper or something, and you're finished with it, and then you're like, what was that about again? So uh, I think reading more would be one of the goals for the near future. And
Nice.
depending on where my career takes me, I'd like to learn, or I'd like to advance my French because I've forgotten essentially all of it. So I can still read because it's very similar to English in terms of vocabulary, but
Mhm.
I wouldn't be very confident speaking.
Oui,
So
oui, croissant, baguette.
yeah, you would be good with that in Paris,
Man,
wouldn't
like,
you?
part of me really wants to like go to France someday and just like, wear a big American flag shirts and just be the most stereotypical American asshole I could be because I don't know, I feel like having that much hatred directed towards you would be such a unique experience. Like walk into like a French McDonald's or something, and be like, I would like a sausage croissant. Like just
Yeah, that's
I don't know. I feel like it would be kind of fun, and like I wouldn't feel too bad because the French have a terrible reputation for being assholes as well, right? So it's like, you're not punching down on a nice nation or anything.
yeah. It's true. Yeah, you would probably get a lot of bad looks, and you wouldn't be served to if you spoke in English. I've heard that the French, they just pretend that they don't understand English. They just they really insist on you speaking French to them back. So
Wow, classic
so
French. What a douchey
yeah.
move. Wow. Like like it's
Yeah,
interesting. I think because it's like such a well-known tourist destination that they're pretty privileged, right? Like the people
yeah,
over there,
yeah,
like they don't have to like give you good service or anything because they know that you're
yeah,
over there for the romance and the Eiffel Tower
yeah.
and all that business. So they can just be total dicks. Even though like tourism is tourism is just such a good industry because you're bringing in somebody else's money completely.
Money.
You don't have to
Yep,
recirculate cash. It's so great.
yep.
But yeah, they're pretty privileged tourism industry over there. I'd say they don't have to do much.
Definitely. Yeah, a little bit too much. Yeah. It's gonna bite them in the ass. Yeah.
Nice.
Anyways, yeah. So that's add that to your bucket list.
Definitely. All right, awesome. Let's see. You got any other questions there
I do,
left
I
off your?
do. All right. So do you still play musical instruments?
Oh yeah, yeah. So I do. I definitely do. Since we moved up to the cities, I haven't had my drum set, which I miss a lot. When we move, I'm gonna have to get a drum set again. Um, but yeah, I definitely still play. I still play bass in church usually. Bass guitar. That's probably my best instrument still. But I play a normal guitar a lot too now. I picked that up. I've got a banjo that I've been trying to learn, but I'm pretty bad at practicing with it. So anything with strings, a lot of that. I play ukulele, mandolin. I'd love to pick up a cello at some point, like a cheap cello, and play that. Like that is just the sexiest instrument to me.
It
Like,
is, yeah.
oh my goodness, like the way it sounds is just so cool. And I read that it's kind of like a guitar in that the like range it has mimics the human vocal cords so closely that's why people love it so much. Is just because it almost sounds like singing. It's really cool. So I got that. I got accordions from Grandpa that I can play badly. Um, it's hard to practice an accordion because if you're bad at accordion, everybody hears you being bad at accordion. Like you can't practice it with headphones on, right? Like you have to give
Yeah,
everybody else headphones to block it out because it's just loud and squeaky, and that's how it's gonna work out. But yeah, harmonica stuff like that. Like I love picking up instruments. I haven't been good at practicing new ones in a while, but I've been keeping up with guitar and bass and piano mostly. So.
like 10 anyways. So
Yeah, it's
you
true.
know,
It's hard, like because you really do lose some of that like muscle memory. Like a lot of songs I learned on piano
hmm,
in college when I had access to like those nice pianos at college. I've lost some of that muscle memory, and it's like eventually I'm not going to be able to keep. I'm going to have to choose which instruments to play and keep up with. Like thankfully, the stringed instruments you can mostly the same technique is used for a lot of that, so those are pretty easy. But like the new weird ones. Those are going to be a tough one.
Yeah, that's. I've seen a video of this one instrument that's been. I think it was. Oh, it was this. Yeah, I went to this like an exhibition of Leonardo da Vinci, and
Mm-hmm.
it was like an exhibition of his inventions and the realized and unrealized inventions. And he had like a blueprint of like it was like a combination of a piano and a violin or a cello maybe because as you played it you played it on what do you call these did you play it on
The keys.
the keys, yeah. So it was you played the keys, but the sounds that it was making was like a combination of the keys that you would hear from a piano with a violin because it had like a it was like a it was it's hard to describe. It was like a circle, like a ring, which kept turning as you were pressing the keys,
Gotcha.
and
All right, and unfortunately, as you might be able to tell, I'm recording this from a different day. But as we were finishing up this podcast, my computer actually ran out of disk space where I was recording it, so we got cut a little short. But we didn't go much farther past this anyway. So sorry for the technical difficulties there. As usual, this is a very high quality podcast, and I'm so very sorry that you guys had to pay for such low quality content. But we'll boot it back up, and next time I'll record to a larger disc. So have a nice day, and now you can listen to our overly long intro.